Hi everyone, Mrs. Musoff here. Today we are going to put everything together and learn how to solve a triangle. So this flowchart here is kind of built to help you, because if you're not sure what to do, just try and follow the flowchart. So, for example, anytime the directions say find the sides and angles of the triangle, that's when we want to use the flowchart. And so you would start by saying, okay, angles. Do I know two angles? And if the answer is yes, perfect. You just subtract the angles from 180 to find the other one. If the answer is no, you're going to circle the reference angle and do what we did in our last notes, where we use inverse trig. Okay. If you want to go over to the sides, same thing. Do you know two sides? If yes, we use Pythagorean theorem. Remember Pythagorean theorem, that's a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are legs and c has to be the hypotenuse. Okay? If the answer is no, you don't know two sides, then we use just regular old trig. Alright, and then use Pythagorean theorem to find the last side. So this flowchart's really going to be your saving grace in case you ever forget what to do in these problems. Okay, let's go ahead and try a couple examples then. So for number one, it says draw the triangle. There we go. Draw a triangle using the given information and find the requested value. Round to the tenth. So remember, tenths, that's one number after the decimal. Just a reminder of our rounding rules. Okay, so number one says triangle ABC. The right angle is C. B, little b equals 4. That means side B is 4. And little a, so again, side A is 10. And find the following. It says capital A, so that's angle A. Capital B is angle B. But lowercase c, that would be side C. Alright, so let's go ahead and draw this triangle out. Now, when you're given a description like this, it doesn't really matter how you draw the triangle as long as it's a right triangle, which means one of your angles has to be a right angle, right here. And then usually we'll tell you which angle is the right angle. So here, for example, triangle ABC, the right angle is C. That means I'm going to put a capital C outside of it. Okay, capital A and B, the other two angles, it doesn't matter which one they go with, so you get to kind of decide. I'll just put A here and B here. Then remember, our sides should always be opposite their same letter angle. Opposite, same letter angle. Just as a side note to remind ourselves. So side B equals 4, I'm going to find capital B, and I'm going to go opposite of it, so all the way across here. And this side is going to be B equals 4. And same thing for side A. I'm going to find capital A, go across from it, so this will be side A equals 10. All right, and now we've got a picture, and it's always easier to solve once you have your picture. Okay, so we are going to start by solving for angle A, since that's the first thing here. Now I'm going to look back up at my flowchart, just in case I forgot. Okay, we're doing an angle first. It says, do you know two angles? So let me look back at this. It looks like I only know this one angle, which is my right angle, and that's 90 degrees. I don't know the other two. So my answer to this first question, do I know two angles? I would say no. So that means circle the reference angle, never the 90 degree, and then use inverse trig. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to circle my reference angle. Now, since I'm solving for angle A first, I'm going to make angle A my reference angle. I'm going to circle it. And then I'm going to label my triangle, because the whole point of circling it is so you know which side is the opposite, which is the adjacent, and which is the hypotenuse. So this side over here is going to be my opposite side. I know my hypotenuse is always across from 90. And my adjacent is that third side. Now it's said to use inverse trig, so this is what we did most recently, where I'm going to base it off of the two sides that I know, and those two sides would be adjacent and opposite. So if I write SOHCAHTOA over here, just to remind myself which trig function to use. Adjacent and opposite, that's A and O. So A and O is right here. So I'm going to use tangent. T stands for tangent. So I would write tangent of my angle that I circled, so tangent of A, is going to equal opposite, that's O, so 10, opposite side is 10, over adjacent, which is 4. And then remember, to solve this equation, we do, I'm just going to write it in parentheses, we do second tangent, because that way it's inverse tangent. And anytime you're solving for an angle, you should be using inverse trig. So I'm going to go over to my calculator. Remember, make sure that your calculator's in the right mode. When I press this mode button, it should say degree right here. Alright, otherwise it'll give us a wrong answer. And so I'm going to do second tangent. Look back over at my problem. That's 10 divided by 4. So second tangent of 10 divided by 4. So this is inverse. Remember that little negative one means inverse. So we're doing inverse tangent. And there's our answer. And it said to round to the nearest tenth. So that's one number after the decimal. Look at the number after it. That's a 9. So that rounds my 1 up to a 2. So it'll be 68.2. And I'm just going to write that here first. So A is 68.2. And since it's an angle, we put the little degree sign because it's degrees. Okay, so I have my first angle. A is 68.2 degrees. Now my next thing to solve for is angle B. Okay, now I'm just going to label this in my triangle. Sometimes that helps me so I don't forget what I know. 68.2 degrees. And if I want to solve for angle B, I'm going to look back up at my flowchart. I'm going to say angles. Do I know two angles? Well, now I do know two angles because I know the 90 degree and I know this new one. So if yes, subtract the angles from 180 to find the other one. Perfect, then that's what I'll do. So to find angle B, I'm going to do 180 degrees minus 90 and minus 68.2. And that'll give me my third angle. So 180 minus 90 minus 60, oops, not 50, 68.2. There we go. And there's my answer, 21.8. And again, just remember, it's an angle, so make sure you put that degree sign. So angle B will be 21.8 degrees. Okay, last thing I'm solving for is my side C. Again, I'm going to look back up at my flowchart for sides now. It says sides, do you know two sides? Well, I do, because I know this side B is 4, this side A is 10. So if the answer is yes, I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem to find the other side, and that's this right here. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, where C is the hypotenuse. So over here, I'm going to do A squared. I'll just make that 10 plus B squared, which is 4. And that's going to equal my hypotenuse, which I don't know, so that's why I'm leaving it as C. And then you can use your calculator to help you out. 10 squared, that's 100. 4 squared is 16. So I have 116 equals C squared. And if I square root it, I should get my answer. Square root of 116. And decimals, remember, here are going to be okay. So again, to the 10th, that's one number after. Look at the number that comes later. 7 means round this up, so it'll be 10.8. So C is going to equal 10.8. And I'll write that over here too. And then I'm done. I have all three pieces. Alright, so it is a few steps, but that's because you're actually solving for 3 things and not just one. So it does take some steps. Alright, let's try one more. Flip it over. Number 2 says draw a triangle using the given information and find the requested value. Again, round to the 10th. So again, that's one number after the decimal. So I'm going to draw my triangle here. Again, any old right triangle, as long as it has that right angle somewhere. That's what we need. It says the right angle is C. Side C, remember lowercase letters are sides. Side C is 19, so that's across from angle C is 19. And side B is 12. Well, I haven't labeled A or B yet, so I'm just going to pick A, B. And side B, so it's across from angle B, is going to be 12. Okay, so over here they want me to solve for angle A, capital letters are angles, angle B, and lowercase are sides, so side A. So keep looking at that flowchart if you need to. It's on the other page, easy for you to flip over. All right, otherwise I'll just kind of talk you through this one. So the first one I'm going to solve for is my angle A. And since I only know one angle, I only know 90 degrees, that means I have to use trig. I have to use inverse trig. So I'm going to circle the angle I'm solving for and label my sides. Opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. And I'm going to write out my SOHCAHTOA so I know which trig function to use. SOHCAHTOA. TOA. And in this case, I know the adjacent side, and I know my hypotenuse, so A and H is cosine. So it'll be cosine of angle A is equal to A over H. So adjacent, that's 12 divided by hypotenuse, which is 19. And again, remember, to solve an equation like this, to solve for an angle, we're going to use inverse trig. So I'm going to flip over to my calculator. Whoops, clear it out. And I'm going to do second cosine and then 12 over 19. So second cosine, that's inverse, perfect, 12 divided by 19. So the only time you should see that inverse thing is when you're solving for an angle. So try to keep that in the back of your mind. Is it a side or an angle? That'll help you know if you're doing it right. Alright, and then nearest tenth means 8. Look at the 3 after it. It's a 3, so I can keep it. So 50.8. So angle A will be 50.8 degrees. And I'll write that over here. Alright, so now I know two angles. I know the 90 and I know my 50.8. So to find my third, I should be able to just subtract from 180. So to find B, I'm going to do 180 degrees minus 90 minus 50.8. And we would type that in our calculator, but I'll help you out here. It should be 39.2 degrees. Yep, so 39.2 degrees there is angle B. Okay, last thing is side A. Now if I look at my sides, I actually know 2 of them. So to find the third, I should just be able to use Pythagorean theorem. Okay, the one thing again you have to really keep in mind is your hypotenuse is always that C in C squared in the Pythagorean theorem. So it doesn't matter which one's A or B, I'm just going to keep it consistent. I'm solving for A, B is 12, and hypotenuse C is 19. And then I have to solve this equation. So A squared, leave it alone. 12 squared, 144. 19 squared, let's double check that one, just to make sure, 361. And then we'd have to still solve. So this one's a little bit trickier. I'd have to subtract that 144. And I'd get A squared, oh, cool, equals 361 minus 144, 217. And then we'd have to square root it. And again, remember, it's okay if you get decimals. Square root of 217. Oops, 217. There we go. Is 14.7. It's a 3 after it, so I'll leave it as a 7. And there's my third side. And that's it. I got everything I need. Alright, so again, use that flowchart. It will become your best friend, and then the more you get the hang of it, the less you'll have to use it. But for the beginning, make sure you're using it so you know you're doing all your steps right. Alright, thanks for watching.